Spader portrayed brilliant, dangerous men who never fully realized their potential. Let you in. Calm on the surface, unsettling underneath. But what most people don't realize is that this wasn't just acting. Behind the awards and iconic roles was a man quietly fighting a condition that dictated his routines, strained his closest relationships, and pushed him deeper into isolation. That his struggle on set affected co-stars and complicating his already problematic professional relationships. Then during one production, everything snapped when a powerful industry legend did something Spader later called deeply uncomfortable and outright disgusting. Who was this co-star? But why did Spader never forget that moment? Man behind the screens. Every Hollywood actor respects James Spader. Directors admire his discipline. Writers love how he brings layers to even the quietest scenes. He plays charming lawyers, mysterious villains, bright outsiders with easy confidence. But behind the polished performances and interviews, there's another side to James Spader most people don't realize. That on sets, things haven't always been smooth. He's fought creatives, challenged scripts, and he's had really tense moments with people just Osha's power. The man who appears warm and composed on camera has built a reputation for being demanding, intense, and sometimes difficult to work with, and that reputation has followed him for decades. James Todd Spader was born February 7, 1960 in Boston, Massachusetts. Both his parents were teachers, which meant he grew up in classrooms, hallways, and academic environments. His mother taught art at he attended Andover's Pike School, and his father taught music at Northbrook School, Andover. Education wasn't just important in Spader House. It was the foundation of all. James attended both schools during his early years surrounded by structure and expectations. He later attended Andover's Phillips Academy, where he studied alongside future theater director Peter Sears. It seemed straightforward. Top school's education and job security. But Spader had other plans. Music and he left Phillips Academy in 11th grade to pursue acting full-time in New York City. It was a risky decision, especially for someone raised in such academically driven surroundings. With no safety net and no guarantees, Spader took whatever work he could find. Teaching yoga was his career. He drove trucks. He worked as a meat packer. He even shoveled manure as a stable hand. Not temporary. Hobbies. While auditioning for an industry he wanted to break into, he took survival jobs, had no regard for his lineage. His first noticeable film role came in 1981 when he played Brooke Shields' brother in Endless Love. Not a career-defining performance, but it got him noticed. From there, he landed small parts in television movies and supporting roles in feature films, slowly building momentum. Early on, Hollywood didn't know how to handle him. Spader had an unusual presence. He was soft-spoken but intense, charming but unsettling. Directors started casting him roles that embraced ambiguity. Throughout the 80s, he was often typecast as arrogant rich kids, morally questionable characters, and quiet antagonists in youth-oriented films. He played characters famously audiences loved to hate. Everything changed in 1989. Spader played Graham Dalton in Steven Soderbergh's Sex, Lies, and Video Tape, a low-budget independent film that went global. The movie won Cannes Film Festival Palme d'Or, and Spader took home the Best Actor award at Cannes for performance. His familiarity changed overnight. Face in teen films to a critically respected actor with serious credibility. From that moment, his career changed dramatically. He leaned into complex, psychologically driven roles, rejecting traditional leading man roles. Over time years, he earned 3 Primetime Emmy Awards for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series, received 3 Golden Globe nominations, and collected 10 Screen Actors Guild Award nominations. His television work, notably in later years, introduced him to an entirely new generation of fans. He added voice acting in 2015 his resume when he voiced Ultron in Marvel's Avengers: Age of Ultron. By then, Spader had already been working steadily for more than 3 decades. But success didn't soften him. As his reputation grew, so did whispers about his behavior on set. People began talking about his intensity, his blunt honesty, and his unwillingness to compromise creatively. Some liked it, others found it exhausting. And a few high-profile clashes would soon make it clear that James Spader wasn't just selective about his roles, he was uncompromising about production. Spader's controversial Hollywood reputation. Rolling Stone named James Spader the strangest TV character and most bizarre, any room, intense guy. The description stuck with him for years. Spader has always been difficult but brilliant, not explosive. His reputation came from something more unsettling. He was known to avoid social situations. He kept his circle small. He stayed intensely private. And he was extremely selective about the roles he accepted. Characteristics sometimes created tension on set, but they also made him perfect for playing characters who lived in gray areas. Spurry built his career one enigmatic, morally ambiguous, and often unsettling roles. His voice alone could alter scene mood. His delivery was always measured and intellectual. His dialogue wasn't rushed. He weighed silences. He also avoided mainstream celebrity culture almost completely. Occasionally, he attended Hollywood events that he usually stayed in the background. For many in the industry, thought as odd. To others, it felt intentional. Spur has said he chooses roles that allow him to spend time developing characters rather than chasing fame or money. He isn't a traditional method actor, but he immerses himself deeply in the psychology of whoever he's playing. He wants to understand every motive, emotional shift, and hidden thought. Some friction starts there. Spot is known for insisting on understanding every nuance of a script before filming. He asks questions. Lines are questioned. He pushes for clarity. He doesn't move forward until the character makes sense to him. For some directors and writers, that level of inspection feels demanding. For others, it's exactly why his performances feel so layered. One of the clearest examples of this side of Spader came in the movie Secretary in 2002. The film explores dark, unfamiliar territory, and Spader's Edward Gray could have become shallow or exploitative. Instead, he approached the take character seriously. The material was restrained by him, emotional discipline. Co-star Maggie Gyllenhaal later said that Spader's intensity and commitment elevated the film, turning shocking music into a gem sake into something deeply human. She praised his seriousness and his ability to emotionally connect unconventional content. This wasn't accidental. Spot doesn't take strange roles for attention. Taking them lets him dig deeper. He's drawn to characters with internal contradictions, whom audiences find difficult to understand uncomfortable. His enthusiasm has carried across to television. When The Blacklist premiered in 2013, Spader played Raymond Reddington became the heart of the series. His character was charming, terrifying, witty, and unpredictable, often delivering long philosophical monologues that felt more like stage performances than network television dialogue. Behind the scenes, crew members praised his diligent planning. He was known for memorizing precise, massive dialogue. He wanted precise language that he cared deeply about rhythm and pacing. If something felt wrong, he spoke up. His co-star Megan Boone said brilliant but mysterious, noting that he kept a professional distance while still commanding respect on set. He wasn't cold, but he wasn't casual either. He maintained boundaries, stayed focused. He expected everyone around him to commit to music. That professional distance became part of his standing. Actors who worked with him often described him as intriguing to watch, even off camera. Ree Wilson once called him mesmerizing, pointing to Spader's unpredictable power and quietness. Steven Soderbergh directed Sex, Lies, Vidape, credited Spader with bringing unexpected depth and nuance to the film, saying his performance changed the project. Not everyone found his approach simple. Others struggled with his silence between takes. Others felt unsettled by how deeply he disappeared into his roles. And some they weren't used to actors who didn't chat or socialize on set. Spader made it clear that he wasn't there to make friends. He was there to work. That mindset earned him admiration from directors who valued serious performers. He also became known as someone who was hard to read, please, and connect with. Personal level. Hollywood saw him as an outlier over time. Unpredictability became part of his brand. But there was more. Unsettling reason behind his need for control, love of solitude, and intense character attention. Spader's battle with obsessive-compulsive disorder. For years, James Spader kept one of the most defining parts of his life completely private. Fans saw confidence. Directors saw the discipline. Co-stars saw his control that brings intensity to every scene, but few know why. A 2014 Spader finally opened up in a Rolling Stone interview and revealed that he lives with obsessive-compulsive disorder. Had described OCD as a constant companion, something that had been with him for much of his life, not something he could change. Switch off when cameras stopped rolling. It was always there, shaping his routines, his thinking, and the way he moved through the world. When asked how it affected him day to day, Spader didn't soften the truth. One sentence, "It's very hard for me," describes his career better than most. Spader says OCD affects almost everyone that he interacts. It affects how he prepares for work, how he processes information, and how he handles uncertainty. Small details don't stay small for him. They demand attention. They linger. They multiplied. He admitted that his mind often fixates on things others might overlook, sometimes to the point of exhaustion. His music has been called eccentric or meticulous because of it. To outsiders, it can look similar to perfectionism. To Spader, it's survival. He's also spoken about needing structure and control in his environment, something that doesn't always align easily with collaborative work. TV and film sets are chaotic. Scheduling changes, scripts change, scenes are rewritten. For OCD sufferers, that lack of predictability can be overwhelming. Spader has explained that his condition hinders his relaxation and musical improvisation. He doesn't thrive in looseness. He thrives in preparation. He must understand what's happening and why it's happening, and how his character fits into every moment. That need for clarity is what sometimes made him seem demanding. He isn't satisfied with surface-level motivation. He wants to know his character's thoughts between lines. He wants to understand emotional transitions that be absent from the page. He wants every scene to make internal sense, not just sense of drama. In unclear situations, he pushes until it becomes clear. Clear. Colleagues have long noticed this drive for precision. His OCD often manifests as an intense focus on script accuracy, pacing, and performance nuance. He's honest about inconsistencies. He doesn't accept vague direction. He needs things to align mentally before he can fully inhabit a role. That same condition that complicates his everyday life has also become one of his greatest creative tools. Neither was that more visible than on the blacklist. Spader has credited his OCD with helping him build Raymond Red Reddington with such meticulous precision. Thacker actors' long monologues, subtle emotional shifts, and carefully measured delivery weren't accidental. He maintained continuity across hundreds of episodes by focusing on detail, even as plots expanded on numerous seasons. The extravagant speeches read was famed for weren't simply remembered. Spader dissected them. He mapped their rhythm. He studied how every syllable reached. His mind locked onto every beat, every pause, every inflection until the dialogue was automatic. That level of control made Red Reddington stand out. But it came at a cost. On Boston, legal co-workers noticed Spader's structure sometimes clashed with freewheeling but set personalities. While other actors were comfortable experimenting or changing things last minute, Spader preferred knowing exactly where everything stood before cameras rolled. Different music working styles sometimes caused friction, not because he was mean, but because his brain simply doesn't operate casually. For Spader, preparation isn't optional, an absolute must. He has acknowledged that OCD can be debilitating in everyday life. Simple tasks can become difficult. Letting go is hard. Silence doesn't always bring rest. His thoughts don't slow down easily. Yet, he's also been honest about how the condition enhances his ability to inhabit complex characters. The same mental intensity that makes ordinary tasks harder allows him to dive deeper into roles most actors might skim across. He doesn't approach characters emotionally alone. He approaches that intellectually, psychologically, and structurally. He builds them from inside out. He also protects his music space for this reason. OCD requires constant management of stimulation, expectations, and emotional energy. Over time, Spader learned that protecting his privacy more than a preference must be done. He couldn't afford the constant noise of celebrity culture over an already difficult interior world. So he withdrew. But OCD isn't the only reason James Spader lives this way. There's another reason he lives so quietly, keeps people at arm's length, and keeps his personal life private. And that reason lies in his extreme devotion to privacy. His decision shaped both career and his relationships in ways few people ever truly saw. A life of ultimate privacy. Over the years, James Spader has made it obvious that his personal life is private. He has said openly that he happily paid a heavy price in terms of career visibility to protect his privacy. For most actors, staying relevant means being seen. However, Spader had to keep his privacy just to stay sane. That choice shaped everything about him. Spader gives interviews sparingly and well, unlike many of his contemporaries that maintains work-focused conversation. He avoids family details. He keeps quiet about relationships. He never offers glimpses into his home life. In fact, I think where he veers too far from acting, he redirects calmly and without regret. He doesn't think others should know his private life. That same mindset carries over into how he interacts with fans. Spur has no social media presence, no Twitter, no Instagram, no Facebook. He doesn't post updates, share photos, or respond to messages. Though celebrities are expected to be always available, he has chosen to remain unreachable outside of his performances. Also known for being detached, modern technology. Working with him describes him as disciplined and selective about how much the outside world he allows into his daily routine. He likes quiet routines over constant connectivity to the world. While others scroll through phones between takes, Spader often steps away, finding stillness wherever he can. Spader has always believed that acting is his profession, not his identity. He shows up prepared, delivers the performance, and then goes home. He doesn't let celebrity or characters influence his personal life. For him, work and life exist in separate compartments, and he protects that boundary fiercely. Despite decades in the public eye, he has consistently anchored his life around family and privacy. His relationships and children have been kept almost entirely out of the media. He worked hard to make sure that his loved ones don't get caught up in celebrity. Unsurprisingly, that decision has required sacrifice. Spur avoids most Hollywood social scenes. Only when contractually required, he attends industry parties. To him, red carpets are appearances, not experiences. Awards ceremonies are work, not parties. Colleagues have described him as someone who retreats quickly once professional duties are done, returning to solitude and structured routines. Hollywood thrives on visibility. Careers are often built as much on presence as on performance. Actors who stay in the spotlight tend to receive more offers, more press, and more momentum. Spader grasped that abandoning that system would he accepted his mainstream popularity limit. His film career, notably, never had a blockbuster run. Critics praised his performances. His insistence on privacy meant fewer high-profile promotional campaigns and less media attention. Compared to peers who leaned into fame, Spader remained understated, sometimes even overlooked. But that same privacy gave him freedom because he could choose projects that genuinely interested him. His duty wasn't to maintain a certain image or box office persona. So he took unconventional roles, explored difficult material, and followed his instincts instead of market trends. His mystique developed from that approach. Audiences didn't know much about James Spader's personal life, which enhanced his performances. Each new role arrived without context, allowing viewers to engage with the character rather than the celebrity. Critics also noticed he was tougher to categorize, predict, and more intriguing due to his seclusion. To watch. Spader remained under control while other actors overexposed, revealing only what he wanted through his work. James Spader lives his way, works carefully, intentionally with boundaries. Most in his position would be unsustainable. He gives everything to his performances and almost nothing to the public. But that level of privacy doesn't exist in isolation. It affects relationships. It affects emotions. And over the years, it has played a powerful role in his romantic life, influencing who he lets close, how long people stay, and what divides them. Chaos in Spader's love life. Spader has kept his romances private, although a few details have spilled throughout time, paint a confusing picture. While his professional life stayed disciplined and controlled, his romantic life followed a much messier path shaped by long absences, intense focus on work, and a personality that didn't always leave room for emotional ease. His first marriage was to Victoria Keel. They met in the early 1980s in New York at a yoga studio where Spader was teaching classes to pay the bills while chasing acting jobs. He was then still building momentum, moving between auditions and odd work, trying to break into an industry that hadn't yet figured out what to do with him. Victoria worked as a film set decorator. They connected over their creative passions. They dated for several years before marrying in 1987. By then, Spader's career was finally gathering momentum. Roles were becoming more consistent, and his name was starting to circulate more seriously in Hollywood. Victoria stayed largely out of the spotlight, focusing she worked while supporting his career. Together, they had two sons. Sebastian Spader was born in 1989 and later worked in film production. Elijah Spader followed in 1992, eventually moving into sound design and music. From the outside, the family appeared stable, but people close to him described the marriage as private and increasingly strained as Spader's fame was rising, and so was his emotional distance. He admitted that his obsessive-compulsive tendencies and intense concentration on work often made relationships difficult. Continuous preparation, long set hours, and his need for structure separated him from his loved ones. He wasn't emotionally expressive in conventional ways, and that lack of softness became harder to manage as his career demanded more of his time and energy. Over time, the gap widened. By the early 2000s saw their marriage crumble. Spader and Keel did not openly state what went wrong. Industry sources cited the same issues that followed Spot throughout his personal life. A demanding career, an inward personality, and a tendency to withdraw when things became emotionally complicated. After 17 years together, they officially divorced in 2004. The separation came as Spader was transitioning into major television roles, including The Practice and Boston Legal, projects that would redefine the second half of his career. He said almost nothing about the divorce, staying consistent with his refusal to discuss personal matters. But friends noticed that the split deepened his instinct to keep his private life private. Around that same period, another relationship had already begun. In 2002, on The Stick-Up, Spader met actress and model Leslie Stevenson, where they starred opposite each other. They connected during filming. They began dating shortly after, during his final years with Victoria. This relationship developed in greater privacy than his previous marriage. Stevenson gradually abandoned acting for sculpture and art. She avoided Hollywood functions, rarely appeared in public besides Spader, and kept her own life largely offline. Their son Nathan Neil Spader was born in 2008. Since then, they've been very discreet. Spader has mentioned Stevenson in interviews brief and restrained, calling her supportive without going deeper private information. This structure matters to Spader. His emotional needs clash with a career that requires constant in his previous marriage attention. He admits his personality is difficult to manage especially when combined with OCD and a relentless work ethic. Relationships need flexibility, vulnerability, and compromise. They're not regions where Spader naturally operates. Victoria Keel lived through the height of his early success, raising children while Spader faced fame and creative strain. Leslie Stevenson entered his life after he left Hollywood and learned how tightly he needed to guard his space. But even with all that control, their one professional relationship unsettled him like none other quite did. One actor, James Spader, found himself deeply uncomfortable working with. The actor he was uncomfortable with. After joining Boston Legal, James Spader had one of his most successful careers. The series created by David Kelly as a spin-off of The Practice gave Spader the role of sharp, morally complex lawyer Alan Shaw, whose intelligence was matched only by his unpredictability. Opposite him was William Shatner, playing Denny Crane, a flamboyant senior partner who leaned heavily into comedy, ego, absurdity. Their on-screen chemistry was undeniable. Alan Shaw and Denny Crane became the emotional center of the show. Their strange friendship carried entire episodes, balancing humor with vulnerability in a way few television partnerships ever manage. Viewers loved watching them argue, bond, and quietly support each other. The scenes felt alive, natural, and often improvised in tone. Behind the scenes, though, their relationship was harder. Spader and Shatner approached acting from completely different places. Spader was careful. He memorized every line exactly. He wanted to understand each scene's logic before filming. He paid attention to pacing, rhythm, and emotional transitions. He intensively practiced music and wanted consistency. Shatner worked the other way. A spontaneous man. He liked to improvise. He brought humor into moments that weren't always written that way. He followed instinct more than structure and enjoyed surprising both cast and crew with unexpected choices. For Spader, that unpredictability was difficult. He has remarked that Shatner's unusual style made dealing with him difficult. Rehearsals could feel unstable, especially for someone whose OCD demanded controlled precision. Spur wanted to know exactly what was coming, but Shatner preferred to discover things in the moment. But the real source of tension wasn't just the acting style. Shatner's habits on set. Spader has said in interviews that Shatner's tendency to during scenes drove him crazy. Shatner snacked on set, casually chewing or licking his fingers between takes. For Spader, who fixated the details and setting were distracting, he found it disruptive and unprofessional, especially while trying to stay mentally locked into a performance. He was equally bothered by Shatner's smoking habit. Spader reportedly called it disgusting and avoided walking near whoever did it. The smell and the lack of boundaries around it all went directly against the controlled space he needed to function on set. He was bothered by these. They disrupted his concentration. Shatner's larger-than-life personality tension was increased further. He moved through the set casually, joked with crew members, and treated filming as something loose and flexible. Spader, on the other hand, approached it like a surgical procedure. Later, had described Shatner as unpredictable, explaining that it made working together harder than people realized. Still, Shatner's talent was undisputed. Spader praised Shatner's charm that recognized that their differences were exactly what made their on-screen partnership work. Shatner, for his part, spoke warmly about Spader. He praised his intelligence and acting ability, often crediting him with elevating the show. He said they got along off-screen but weren't close, but weren't super friendly. Spader's behavior also amused Shatner, displeasure with his habits. He never took it personally. Instead, he joked about it in interviews, once explaining that their craft service table was located near the stage entrance, which meant Spader had to walk past people eating. Shatner chuckled about how Spader would avoid looking, especially if someone was spreading butter on a bagel or licking their fingers. Despite everything, the professional respect between them never disappeared. Years of collaboration produced one of most memorable TV duos. What do you think about James Spader's relationship with coworkers? Leave a comment below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the next video on your screen, like this video, and subscribe to our channel for updates.